Nobody inside baseball saw this coming. Not the players. Not the coaches. Not the front offices that have been monitoring this situation since the moment everything unfolded at Dodger Stadium. What was expected to be a standard league review, the kind of procedural process that follows any on-field incident, turned into something that sent shockwaves through every clubhouse in Major League Baseball on Friday morning. The Seattle Mariners' first baseman has received a lifetime ban from Major League Baseball. And within hours of that announcement reaching the public, Shohei Ohtani stepped forward with a statement that nobody in this league anticipated. This is not a story about a suspension. This is not a story about a fine or a brief absence from the roster that gets forgotten by the following week. According to multiple sources with direct knowledge of the situation, what MLB uncovered during their review of the Dodger Stadium incident went far beyond what was visible on the field that night. And when the full picture came into focus for league officials, the decision that followed was not a difficult one. It was, according to those familiar with the process, one of the most clear-cut determinations league officials had reached in years. A lifetime ban. In the middle of an active season. Against a player who was considered a core piece of the Mariners' roster construction going forward. The entire league went silent. The days following the Dodger Stadium incident had been tense for everyone connected to the Seattle organization. According to multiple sources inside the Mariners clubhouse, the atmosphere had shifted in a way that was immediately noticeable to anyone who walked through those doors. The usual sounds of a working baseball environment, the background noise of preparation, conversation, the rhythms of a team moving through its daily routine, had been replaced by something much quieter and much heavier. Players were careful with their words. Coaches kept meetings brief. And according to those present, the name at the center of everything was spoken less and less as the days went on, not because people had stopped thinking about it, but because nobody was certain what was appropriate to say while the league's review was still ongoing. The Mariners' front office, according to multiple sources, had been in consistent contact with MLB throughout the review process. They were kept informed at each stage. But according to those familiar with those conversations, even the people inside the Seattle organization who had been through difficult situations before were not fully prepared for the direction the review ultimately took. Because what the league found during their investigation was not limited to what happened in the sixth inning. According to multiple sources with knowledge of the review, MLB investigators examined a significantly broader window of behavior and conduct. What emerged from that examination painted a picture that went well beyond a single moment of on-field aggression. The specific details of what MLB's investigation uncovered have not been fully disclosed publicly. However, according to multiple sources familiar with the findings, the evidence presented to league officials included conduct that violated several of MLB's core integrity policies simultaneously. This was not a situation where one rule had been broken in one moment. According to those with knowledge of the review, the findings were layered, each element compounding the seriousness of what came before it. When league officials sat down to determine the appropriate response, the conversation, according to those familiar with it, did not involve debating the length of a suspension. The nature of what had been uncovered moved the discussion into entirely different territory almost immediately. And when the final determination was reached, it was communicated to the Mariners organization with a directness that left very little room for interpretation. The first baseman was informed personally. According to those present, the moment he received the news, the room went completely still. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. And in the seconds that followed, according to eyewitnesses, it was clear that even the player himself understood that this was not something that could be appealed away or managed through legal maneuvering. This was final. And everyone in that room knew it. The reaction from inside the Mariners clubhouse, according to multiple sources, was unlike anything most players in that room had previously experienced during their professional careers. There is a specific kind of silence that descends on a group of people when something genuinely irreversible has occurred. It is different from the silence after a tough loss. It is different from the silence after a trade that nobody saw coming. According to those present when the news reached the players, this was the heaviest version of that silence. Several veteran players reportedly sat without speaking for several minutes after the announcement was shared internally. Coaches who have been in professional baseball for decades were described by eyewitnesses as visibly affected in a way that went beyond their normal professional composure. And according to multiple sources, the first extended conversation that broke out among the players was not about the ban itself, it was about what it meant for the people around him. His teammates. His coaches. The organization that had invested in him and built plans around his continued presence. Because a lifetime ban does not only affect the player who receives it. It reshapes rosters. It forces front offices to restructure. It creates a visible absence in a clubhouse that everyone has to navigate every single day for the remainder of the season. And for a Mariners team that was already carrying significant internal tension into this stretch of the schedule, the timing could not have been more difficult. The league's announcement reached the public in the late morning hours. And within minutes, the reaction from across the baseball world confirmed exactly how unprecedented this moment was. Former players, analysts, and people connected to the game at every level expressed a version of the same sentiment, that a lifetime ban of this nature, issued mid-season against an active roster player, was something that most people inside the sport had never witnessed in real time. Social media filled instantly. Sports networks interrupted their regular programming. And inside clubhouses across Major League Baseball, players gathered around phones and screens in a way that told its own story about how significant this moment was being treated by the people who live inside this sport every day. But while the baseball world was still processing the weight of the ban itself, something happened that shifted the entire conversation in a direction nobody had anticipated. Shohei Ohtani issued a public statement. According to multiple sources, the decision by Ohtani to speak publicly was not made impulsively. Those close to the Dodgers star described the process as deliberate and carefully considered. Ohtani does not make public statements lightly. His communication with the media and the public has always been measured, controlled, and purposeful. Every word he puts forward publicly carries the weight of that consistency behind it. Which is precisely why what he said hit as hard as it did. According to those familiar with the statement before it was released, there was significant internal discussion within Ohtani's camp about whether to respond publicly at all. The argument for silence was straightforward: the league had acted, the situation had been resolved through the proper channels, and any public comment risked extending a story that everyone connected to the Dodgers wanted to move past. But Ohtani made a different decision. And according to those close to him, it was entirely his own. In his statement, Ohtani did not celebrate the outcome. He did not express satisfaction at the ban. He did not position himself as a victim who had finally received justice. According to multiple sources with knowledge of the statement's contents, what Ohtani communicated was something far more unexpected, and far more revealing about the kind of person he is away from the cameras and the highlight reels. Ohtani expressed that he took no pleasure in the outcome for the player involved. He acknowledged the seriousness of what had occurred but framed it within a larger context, one that spoke to the standards of the game, the responsibility that every player carries when they step onto a major league field, and the importance of protecting the integrity of baseball not just for the people playing it today but for everyone who will play it after them. And then he said something that froze every person who read it. According to multiple sources, Ohtani's statement included a direct acknowledgement that he hoped the player involved would find a path forward beyond baseball, that he did not view this as the end of a person's story, only the end of a chapter that should never have been written the way it was. He wished him well. Genuinely. Without conditions. The statement spread instantly. And the reaction from across the baseball world was immediate and uniform. Nobody expected that. Not from any player in this situation. And certainly not delivered in the manner that Ohtani delivered it. Inside the Dodgers clubhouse, according to multiple sources, the reaction to Ohtani's statement was one of quiet but genuine respect. This is a team that has watched Ohtani operate at close range for long enough to understand how he thinks and what he values. But even within that environment, even among teammates who know him better than almost anyone, the statement landed with a weight that several players reportedly described as deeply moving. Dave Roberts, according to those present, did not say much when the subject came up internally. He didn't need to. According to multiple sources, the look on his face when Ohtani's statement was discussed was the kind of expression that communicates everything without requiring a single word. This is the player the Dodgers built this roster around. Not just because of what he does with a bat and on the mound. But because of moments like this one, moments that have nothing to do with statistics and everything to do with character. For the Mariners, the road ahead is a complicated one. A lifetime ban mid-season creates roster challenges that cannot be solved overnight. The front office faces immediate decisions about roster construction, about leadership within the clubhouse, and about how to manage the psychological weight of this moment on a group of players who still have months of baseball left to play. None of those challenges are simple. And according to multiple sources inside the organization, the conversations about how to move forward have already begun, not with panic, but with the kind of sober, deliberate focus that difficult situations demand from professional organizations. Because baseball does not pause. The schedule continues. The games return. And both of these teams will be back on a field tomorrow, carrying everything